What if I told you that the biggest mistake a seller can make has very little to do with all of the updates and the renovations and all of the curb appeal and the flowers and the photos and the videos and all of the things that we think is going to sell a house and is important, but actually the biggest mistake that you can make has to do with list price and positioning your home correctly in the market. That's what we're going to talk about today in a tale of two houses. I want to walk you through a story that we have seen happen time and time again in this market, and let's set the scene. And so we're going to have two separate houses. Now, before we jump in real quick, I do want to just quickly introduce myself. My name's Cam Avery. I'm a local real estate agent and resident here with the Avery Realty Group. We've helped sellers sell over $100 million in real estate, and so we like to think we at least kind of know what we're talking about. Let's go ahead and jump into the video. So we've got two houses here. Now, we've got house A, and then we've got house B. And if you're wondering why I don't do a lot of whiteboards, it's because my handwriting is nearly illegible, but I thought this would be really effective for this scenario. And so we look at these two separate houses and we realize that they're in roughly the same neighborhood. They're in roughly the same condition. They have roughly the same beds and bathrooms. And so from a pricing perspective, we look at the market value of house A and house B, and we say, okay, the market value for both properties is right around $550,000. And so these houses start from exactly the same place, $550,000 for house A, $550,000 for house B, but then we take two completely different roads, which absolutely changes the price that both houses sell for. And the big thing for most sellers is differentiating list price from sold price. And so we know market value, and then we have a list price, and then we have a sold price. And so let's start with house A, and for the sake of this, we're gonna call house A the smart sellers, or the savvy sellers in today's market. Savvy sellers right now understand that the market has changed and it's really important to continue to drive buyer activity. And so they look at the market value and they say, okay, well, our house is priced at $550,000. So we're going to take what we call an event pricing strategy and actually list the property at $525,000. So we're gonna go about 5% underneath the market value. Now you say, well, Cam, that doesn't make any sense. Why wouldn't we price it right at market value? Well, you have to think again, as the list price here, as the invitation to the party. And if your invitation stinks, nobody's gonna come to your party. Now let's take a look at house B. Now we'll call house B the aspirational sellers. Now these are sellers that have an aspirational idea of what their property is worth. And so they looked at the market, we look at the comps, we say your house is worth $550, and they say, all right, well, we'd like to actually list our house slightly higher than market value at $575. Well, you know, we can start high, we can always come down, right? You know, we hear this, well, I'm gonna shoot for the moon and maybe I'll land on the stars, right? The problem with that is that right now, buyers have the entire multiple listing service in the palm of their hand. Most buyers that are active in the market today are smarter than half of the real estate agents that are out there selling houses because they're looking at houses day in and day out. They know the market like the back of their hand. And so when you price your house 5 to 10% over that market value, what ends up happening, buyers end up passing it by. And so both of these houses hit the market on the same weekend. We listed house A at $525 and house B at $575, and the market value for both of these houses was $550. Now what happens next is absolutely fascinating. And so house A, our savvy sellers, we had an open house that first weekend and the place was absolutely crazy. People were everywhere. We had 25 parties come to the open house, and out of those 25 parties, we generated 7 offers for house A. Now, house B, our aspirational sellers, same strategy. We have our open house, we do our professional photos, we do the professional video. We hit the market the very same weekend, same weather, same conditions. The open house has 2 or 3 parties, and out of those 2 or 3 parties, we ended up with 0 offers. So no one was willing to bite at $575, again, because buyers understand the market. Now, Here we are, 525, 7 offers. What type of offers do you think they are? Of course, they're over asking. This property ends up getting 7 offers and closes at $593,000. So when you look at the market value and where it ends up selling, you're $43,000 over the market value. House B, our aspirational sellers, their house sits on the market, and in this target market that we're talking about, the average days on market, let's just say is 23 days on market. Okay, so this property sits on the market for over a month, and after about a month, you know what we end up having to do? We have to do a price reduction down to $550. And then after we've done the price reduction to $550, we have another open house and end up with 1 offer for $525,000. And so the aspirational sellers that had the dreams of shooting for the stars and landing on the moon end up selling at $525,000. And so they're actually $25,000 underneath market value is where they end up selling. So now the question comes at this point, what type of seller do you want to be? Do you want to be the type of seller that's savvy, that understands that market conditions are changed, that sells your house in the first weekend for over asking? Or do you want to be the type of seller that shoots for the moon and doesn't land on the stars, but actually lands in some crater way over there, ends up selling for $25,000 underneath market value? Now, I know this is a lot to take in, and every property is going to be different, and so if you'd like to schedule a consultation directly with us, make sure to reach out to me. You can click the link right in the description below to set up a consultation. I hope you got a lot out of this video, and we'll see you in the next one.